Cool. So I think we can start.
Yeah, let's get started. It's obviously been a little while here since we did a community call, so there's a lot of stuff for us to talk about. So we're gonna get into it basically immediately. I'll go back and forth with Mark a little bit. We're running through fuse.cash. We're talking about some of the partnerships that we've been doing. Obviously the Binance Smart Chain integration, and then some other things that are coming up. We've got lending coming up on the platform soon, and we might give you a little sneak preview of the new website which is coming out next week. So if you want to jump in here, Mark, and talk a little bit about fuse.cash and what we've been doing there.
Yeah, so fuse.cash is, I'm connecting my phone 1 second. fuse.cash is really one of the biggest interactions we have with customers on our platform, and this is why we put most of our focus there, especially since the beginning of this year. There's the code base that we built fuse.cash with. 1 second. So the code base is actually something we're building for the last 2 years, and it has already 50 forks on GitHub. And there's a lot of communities that use it. We thought it's time to take it to the next level. And this is the idea of fuse.cash, really build a product that the next 10 million people in DeFi can use. And it's really the glue that connects everything we did together. Somebody is screaming. So the idea was to create something which is much more consumer facing and much simpler. So users install the wallet and they get something that resembles Square Cash or Venmo or WeChat or anything they're familiar with in their countries. A tool for social payments, a tool for savings, a tool for being able to pay for coffee and stuff like that. And on top of that, as an additional bonus, people can also invest. So the idea is to really take the Lego building blocks of DeFi to the next level and simplify dramatically the user experience without using a database just like Coinbase is using or Binance. Basically, how do we create the experience of Coinbase and Binance without doing it centralized? So this is what you see is all non-custodial open source. People can deposit money for almost no fees. We're using a ramp called Ramp Network. They allow us to deposit dollars, which is in this case Fuse dollars. This is our stable coin. We can deposit it 1-to-1, so we can put $20 and get $20 without any fees in the process. We avoid the fees. Some of it we're subsidizing, but also because Ramp is working with Fuse directly. So already we can see, unlike 6-7 years ago when Bitcoin rally started, people fiat ramps charge something like 10%, especially for credit cards deposits. Here you can deposit using credit card, Apple Pay, Revolut, SEPA transaction, faster payments in UK. So you have multiple ways to deposit. Some of it is totally free. Depositing from a bank account is totally free. And then you get instantly the dollars into your account, and then you can swap them for anything else you want that has liquidity on FuseSwap. So let's say I have $12 in this wallet and I want to buy some Ether with it. This transaction is something we can implement really easily. It's something that, let's say I want to buy Fuse. So the process is super simple, instant transaction, instant verification, no gas, and we're able to do this $1 payment instantly without any third parties, working with the exchange directly. Also sending money here doesn't require knowing, let's say I want to send $1 to my brother. The whole process is painless, very, very fast. You don't need to know is public key. So we're really try to do abstraction of all the crypto parts. The public key, the private key. The plan moving forward is to add yield. So that would be one of the next features to be added. So people can just hold dollars here. They don't need to hold the Ethereum or Fuse. They can just deposit dollars and hold dollars and not be exposed to any volatility. We don't necessarily target investors. So this could be used as a savings product that gives you access to dollars and even dollar yield, which is something that you don't need a bank. And in the future, we'll also offer other stable coins like euros and pounds. And of course, I'll talk about it in a second. What if you want to get 100% APR, which people get on yield farming? So soon we're going to add also ability to do yield farming. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. And the last thing is really being able to protect your wallet without accessing the 12 words. So those 12 words, this is my test wallet, but you can definitely understand that the only thing that is really problematic and has like crypto aspects that are important is the private key. We want to remove this as well. So the idea is to remove the private key and use social recovery. That this would be our vision to how we can reach 10 million users, that they will not know about any of the friction of using MetaMask and gas and interacting with Ethereum directly and holding the 12 words mnemonic. They will have a bank account on Fuse. And that's really the vision with this wallet. And we're rolling it out slowly, but that's like on a nutshell, just an overview of what we have. It's already available on the App Store, and we'll start to roll it out slowly in the next few weeks. So that's the wallet.
Mark, we launched this. It was obviously a new direction for us to go in, launching fuse.cash, having previously built with products that deal with B2B and operators. It's a mega competitive market, the consumer wallet market. One of the questions that we had is to sort of understand what the growth targets are, or what are we focusing on when it comes to growth for fuse.cash?
Yeah, so right now, if we look at if we look at all of DeFi, all of the Ethereum active accounts on mainnet, we're talking about 2.5 million daily active users. If you're looking at MetaMask in general, it has something like 5 million installations, and I think a lot of it is active. But we don't see this grow beyond that. So it's going to grow a little. But we want to reach 10 million users, 100 million users. It wouldn't happen overnight, but definitely MetaMask is not going to have 10 million users ever. It's too difficult, it's too complicated, and the network doesn't even have enough capacity. We don't want our users to have this friction at all. So this is the goal, to reach 10 million users over the next year and grow this to mainstream. So being able to access 5% dollar savings account, this is pretty universal. Being able to pay with it at merchants or pay P2P or do social payments, that's a consumer demand worldwide. Everywhere people have phones. So this is why our focus, like right now, for instance, we're working on adding Transact, which is working active in Asia and India and accepting different payment processing in different countries to get better coverage. So currently we're better at European fiat ramps, like we're better with European customers. We want to be also usable for South American depositors, African depositors, Asian depositors. None of them are using credit cards. So that's really, or they use less than Europe. So this is really the holy grail, to have global coverage, and our focus is there, just to bring 10 million retail users that really will use this as a banking infrastructure.
Awesome. I'll take a question here on the fly, and I want to make sure that we've got time for questions at the end as well. But a question from Jan here is concerning the gas fees. We do zero fees when transacting with Fuse Wallet. Who's paying the fees?
Yeah, so whenever you create a community on the studio, you cover the fees for your customers. So if you have a football fan club, somebody needs to be muted. Let's see who it is. Okay. There's a bit of this. Okay. So sorted. Hope you still hear me. So when there's fee abstraction, so the user doesn't pay the fees unless we decide to charge the fees from the user. And when we decide to charge the fees from the user, we can decide to charge 0 fees, or we can actually charge it in different currencies, or we can decide to have it fixed. So the whole idea here is that the fees are paid by a single entity to the network, but they can also be charged from the users themselves. Right now on the fuse.cash app, we cover all the transaction fees. They're very low. It's just like something that the bank does. So especially with social payments, they usually cover those transaction fees. But the plan in the future is to build a business model around it. Either charge from the merchants or charge subscription from the users. And there's multiple revenue models. So fees is not our primary model. Our objective is to have more TVL, more people depositing money into the system, and more people circulating money inside the system. And we offer them products. Basically, in the future, we'll have lending. We'll talk about it also in the call today. Now you're muted, Robert. Try now. Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, moving forward, because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, notably in terms of some of the partnerships and integrations that we've been doing. I'll jump to, obviously we did a bunch of partnerships in Q1. We did a partnership with the Graph protocol. We did Chainlink. We did Pocket Network. A lot of this stuff is around interoperability and ensuring that we're able to work well with the wider blockchain ecosystem. I want to jump to the integration that we did with Binance Smart Chain. And if you could sort of help the community understand some of the reasons why we decided to bridge to Binance.
Yeah. So Fuse is building a network, an L1 and L2, because consumers don't know what is L1 or L2, or what is Binance or what is Ethereum. But on Binance, there's currently more traction. There's more activity than Ethereum because of their low fees. And right after Binance, Polygon came. So what we see in the next 6 months is probably there would be 10 very popular chains, and all of them will have different variations of the same infrastructure we see today on Ethereum. So we'll see their own versions of lending, their own versions of derivatives, their own versions of Uniswap, and it's important for us to build bridges between those chains. And be able to capture some of this liquidity. And we're also already doing that right now. We did it with Ethereum, and we plugged directly to mainnet. And we saw major traction from Ethereum until gas became kind of like unsustainable. And now we're basically taking and plugging it to plugging all of our infrastructure to new chains. So we want Fuse to be part of this global settlement layer. And probably there wouldn't be one blockchain to capture all the value in the world. And also it seems like crypto doesn't have the Pareto law, which is like winner takes all. So it's not going to be like Ethereum controlling 80% of the market. It's probably going to be 5 or 10 like big ones, big chains around like different verticals. And this is where we aim. So Binance Chain is accessible on our FuseSwap, which I'm sharing my screen, 1 second. FuseSwap is 1 second. FuseSwap is really a product we invest a lot of resources in, and we plan also to release a completely new design for it, completely new version. I actually want to show a demo of what we're working on in a second. The users that hold the funds on their MetaMask, they can connect between networks. And you can see that once you're on Fuse, you can move different tokens you have. I have a little bit of Fuse. I can send it to Ethereum or to Binance through those chains. And in the future, we want to add also other blockchains. And FuseSwap is really a product that we're investing a lot of resources in. We're not going to share this right now, but I still wanted to have a sneak peek into how the next version is going to look like. So this is a sneak peek into the next variation of FuseSwap. And the idea is really to tie all the products together, create a nice UI, and most importantly, let people access this product without going through MetaMask. So being able to plug FuseSwap directly into to the fuse.cash wallet and be able to deposit money with the wallet and then participate in yield farming on FuseSwap. And yield farming is going to be on steroids, because right now it's like an early version, but we're already experimenting with how to streamline it and how to add the incentives and optimize the incentives and basically bootstrap liquidity on the Fuse blockchain. And provide all the swapping functionality simplified, because you don't need to go through MetaMask. So that's the idea. One final thing, we also have, one second. We also have a little bit of a nice update. So this is how the rewards interface looks like today. And again, in the future, it will look different. We're about to launch some new LP rewards on FuseSwap today. You can see that it's already has like a coming soon tag. This is going to be live today. And all the yield farming programs are still gaining nice APYs. And one thing we added, which what we didn't have before, is the ability to connect Wallet Connect. So from now on, you don't have to use your desktop wallet. You can also use any mobile wallet. You can use Trust Wallet or MetaMask Mobile, or even, actually those are the two right now. But MetaMask Mobile is now working with Fuse rewards. And now in the future, we'll also be able to use Wallet Connect to plug in FuseCash directly to LP rewards. So basically, we're taking steps towards letting anybody access those programs and being able to bootstrap liquidity on Fuse. From experience, it's very effective. Those incentives are working. So that's for now about FuseSwap. Did I forget something, Robert?
No, that's everything. I suppose maybe to sort of understand what we can expect moving forward within the Binance ecosystem. What are we looking for? What kind of what are we looking for from a growth perspective and let's say a partnerships perspective in the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem?
So right now we're in a discussion with several exchanges on or DEXs on BSC on Binance Chain. The plan is to do like a really big rollout for listing Fuse there on some of the DEXs on BSC, and we will talk about it once we have something final.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Let's jump to lending at this stage. So we announced a few weeks ago that we'll be launching lending on Fuse Network. It's very exciting for a number of reasons, just in terms of what individual users can do just for lending, lending various different assets, but then also in terms of some of the liquidity-based strategies that they can put in place. In working also with FuseSwap, with yield farming opportunities and whatnot. Do you want to talk a little bit more about lending?
So Fuse is going to launch a lending protocol on top of our network, built by all of Finance. We talked about the company. I can also share my screen in a second. It's still under development, so I wouldn't share this publicly yet, but we're really close to share this. So all of Finance actually is an Israeli team that is really professional and actually researched very deeply the compound protocol. And they're building a compound protocol for the long tail of digital assets, which is perfect for Fuse, because Fuse is a platform that any community can create their own token, and they can create their own liquidity and lending with that token. So from now on, if people want to, and I see their app has a stage fright. But the idea is that let's say that I own Fuse, I can borrow dollars against those Fuse. Maybe I am a believer, or I want to participate in yield farming, and now we have another financial tool. Unfortunately, it still doesn't have liquidity. We're working on it because it's not ready yet.
Yeah, this is brand new. This is the new.
It's not loading, but just yesterday I took a loan and I wanted to show you, but it's okay because it's still under construction. We didn't release it publicly yet. The guys at All Finance are working on it, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks we're going to announce that it's live. In the meantime, we'll also share some resources on how to use it and walkthrough guides. Let's say that you have a lot of Fuse and you want to participate in the USDC yield farming, you will have those new opportunities of things that you couldn't really do before that on Fuse. So that's really another aspect to how do we build liquidity. We build infrastructure and products that use liquidity in a smart way. So that's all of finance.
Yeah. So one of the strategies, for example, might be if you want to provide liquidity on Fuse Swap, and you want to provide that liquidity on, let's say, the Fuse dollar pair, you might lend the Fuse dollar. So you lend the Fuse dollar on Ola lending, as opposed to selling Fuse into Fuse dollars to do so, right? So it's a better strategy if you want to be able to provide more liquidity there. And it'll be going live next week. So we'll be making some announcements over the next few days. I'm pushing out some content about the different strategies and whatnot, and then the configurations for the lending platform, which brings me to a question that we got from Lucas here. Where does the funding of the lending APY come from?
So when you lend let's say that you want to take a loan of dollars against your crypto, against Fuse or against ETH, you basically offer you pay an interest. So it's not free. You need to put a full collateral, like over collateralized loan, and then you need to also pay an interest. And this interest goes directly to the liquidity provider of the underlying asset, which is in this case dollars or stable coins. So people that hold stable coins can get a yield for them because they're being used as liquidity for lending for other people that want to offer interest rates. And this is remarkable because usually this is something a bank does. In our case, there's no bank in the middle. You pay the interest directly to the liquidity provider, just like Uniswap pays the fees to the liquidity provider without taking any cut. So that's really the nice thing about building those products, that they don't need licensing because there's no intermediary.
Awesome. Final subject here. What we'll do is we've got another announcement coming here concerning the new website, which is going live. Mark might want to give a preview. I'm not sure if the plan is to give a preview of the new website. And then after that, we'd like to talk a little bit about what can be expected, let's say for the rest of May, and then going into June, and then in the distance going into Q3 and the end of the year, some of the things that we're looking for from a growth perspective.
Yes, so we'll talk about that, and then there's like 3 or 4 questions to answer on the chat. So one thing before we start, I want to show you our new website, which is under construction, but it's really something that we're working on for the last quarter, and it's about to be live. So this is going to be the new design. Completely changed the homepage, all the wording, and the objective was to build a website. Instead of focusing on the software stack, we want to focus on the software stack, but also the fact that there's an ecosystem, and explain all the parts of the ecosystem. We kind of tried to avoid that. We didn't talk too much about DeFi. We didn't talk too much about blockchain in the last version of the website. We tried to keep it like very simple, and now we really feel like the ecosystem has grown. We want to talk about the infrastructure and the products, but we also want to talk about DeFi and Fuse Swap, and be able to show fuse.cash and all the different communities on the network in a way that is a little bit more detailed. So that's the new website. The old website didn't contain big parts of what I'm showing you, and hopefully we're going to showcase the ecosystem a bit better, talk about our employees, talk about our investors, the backers from the company. You will see it next week once it's live. We even have a new token page that talks about where you can acquire this, where you can see the distribution, how the fees work, how the inflation work, and where can I read further. That's the new website in a nutshell. Still not ready, but almost.
Awesome. I'll keep taking questions here on the fly as we go through. There was a question from Maul concerning community currencies created on Fuse and how they fit into the vision, essentially, how they fit into the whole ecosystem, including Fuse Cash, on-ramps, lending, swapping, etc.
So very simple. If you create a coin on the studio, you immediately allow to access liquidity on Fuse Swap. So that's something we offer out of the box with guides and links, and everything's ready once you launch on the studio. The studio is kind of like the entry level, like see what you can do on the network with different widgets and options. Lending is not something that is live yet, so I don't think we're ready to use it for every newcomer. But adding liquidity is something people already do. And the plan in the future is to require a specific amount of Fuse in order to be listed on the wallet. So if people want to be able to be showcased, to be able to be traded on the mobile side, they would need to reach a certain amount of liquidity in their pools. So if people are able to bootstrap this liquidity, they're automatically going to be shown on the wallet. And also we have a little bit of surprises in the future about how do we build the governance to decide which tokens we're going to list, especially if the wallet is being used by millions of people. You don't want anybody to be able to just be traded there with retail investors. And we're talking about a very, very sensitive and careful thing we need to work with in terms of governance and legal aspects and stuff like that. So that's like maybe very high level explanation, but the studio is the starting point to access all those functionalities. And I see people are asking about
how does
inflation and staking. So Lucas is asking about network inflation. So actually we're working right now on finalizing a proposal. It will take a little bit of time because this is not a decision we're making about tomorrow morning. This is a strategy, a long-term strategy of how do we create scarcity for Fuse. On the other hand, how do we create inflation and incentives? And a healthy network is a network that has inflation, but too much inflation is not healthy. So what I said right now is more art than accurate science, and people are really debating this all the time. What we're going to do in the near term is incentivize people more. So rewards are going to be more in the short term. In the medium term, the APY is going to be high. Long term, the APY is going to be low. And that's something that needs to be addressed. The network grows at a certain rate, and that's why we have inflation. But it's not going to be like in 10 years from now. The plan is not to have 5% inflation. That's just crazy. That's not healthy. So that's the view in like a few sentences. There's obviously a lot to discuss here. So we're going to do a proposal on the forum about it. Next question. By the way, all those decisions are being voted on. So it's not like we have our views that inflation should be lower long term and higher short term, but that's something that we're going to vote on. And of course, there has to be numbers to vote on and a binding decision. Let's continue.
So there's questions that we're getting live here, and then there's questions that we've had that we.
Yeah, so I wanna answer the question about Vietnam, how to buy in Vietnam. So if ramp is not working in Vietnam, very soon you'll be able to use Transact. We're working on adding Transact support. Transact is another vendor, and I hope they also work in Vietnam. If not them, then we'll need to figure out who's working in Vietnam. Right now, this is our main focus for the wallet, to add more fiat ramps. But basically, we want to be available for anyone, anywhere to deposit. This is how Binance, by the way, succeeded. Much to do with the fact they're like the largest, they're the entity with the most fiat ramps, I think, in crypto. And also the most money and volume, but that's a different story. Another question from Salvador Perez. Is there a plan for integration of FuseCash and Fuse Wallet? So actually FuseCash and Fuse Wallet, it's the same code base. They're already integrated. If you use FuseCash, it's the same core code behind the scenes. And all of our forks are using the same code base. All are based on the Fuse Wallet. And the idea is that the Fuse Wallet is a sandbox for developers. It's open source. FuseCash is also open source, but it's very, very customized to DeFi. People, for instance, use it in Spain and in Liverpool and in Thailand, in South America, and for use cases that has nothing to do with DeFi. And this is the idea of Fuse Wallet, to be like a sandbox where you can customize. So that's the idea. And also Fuse Wallet works hand in hand with the studio. FuseCash is like a community on the studio. One specific customization or one specific implementation of the Fuse Wallet. And Fuse Wallet is something we're planning to focus a lot, like social recovery. It's going to be available for everybody, not only for FuseCash. Things like those stable coins that we integrated, but also we're doing a lot of research around Bluetooth payments, BLE, so Bluetooth low energy. We want to replicate what you can do with NFCs. We can't really use NFCs in the iOS ecosystem, but we can use Bluetooth low energy, which is very interesting, maybe worth talking about it separately. It streamlines not only discovery of people that have the wallet around you or merchants, but also the payment process could be very, very improved in terms of friction. I would say even more than NFCs to some extent. So I can talk about it later a little bit more. More questions, Isaac? Sorry, Robert?
Yeah, could we get Isaac in if he's available? If you could unmute him. I want to get Isaac to field a question here concerning, there's a question concerning like an airdrop. So do you plan to do a major airdrop for early adopters like Uniswap did before it was listed on major exchanges?
Yeah, so go on, man.
Go ahead.
We haven't announced any airdrops, but we're actively encouraging people to try out our different products. As we mentioned, we have lending happening soon. I think there was a question before from Lucas about some of the APY. So actually in the short term, that's boosted. So actually there'll be like additional APY in the lending network that's airdropped or given by the Fuse Foundation. We have the rewards pool. We mentioned there's 2 new pools launching later today, which Mark presented earlier. So definitely there are lots of incentives to use the products, and stay tuned for more opportunities coming soon.
Awesome. Getting lots of questions here, which is fantastic. What else have we got? Forking fuse.cash means fiat ramps could be used as well, or is anything else needed? Yeah, so I think the question there is for the wallets, for the forked wallets of Fuse, is there the possibility for them to use the on-ramp partnership, to use Ramp Network?
Yeah, so go to the studio, create a new community, and then choose the plugin for fiat ramps. Choose the fiat ramp that you want to use. I would say that this is a tricky business because, especially lately, you have USDC on Polygon, USDC on Binance Chain, and USDC on Ethereum. You need the specific fiat ramp to support the specific asset that you want to use. So fiat ramps, there's a lot, and every one of them is kind of different. So there's companies that deposit BUSD on Binance Chain, and there's other ramps that are doing exactly the same thing on Binance Smart Chain. And most people don't know that Binance have 2 chains, not 1. And it's anyway, I'm just saying that doing something, using it out of the box requires understanding those intricacies. So we need to just put a disclaimer there. But yeah, you can use the fiat ramps in those communities. It just requires a little bit of glue. We need to talk about it per case basis. But you can see all of our partners that wanted to implement fiat ramps, all of them chose different solutions because it's also depending on the jurisdiction. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I'll take one of the questions that we got from the community beforehand. What was the question I had here? It was, concerning, well, going back to FuseSwap once again, and how we plan to compete with other DEXs, in the mid to long term.
So how do we plan to compete with other DEXs? That's the question?
Yeah.
I think we don't. I don't see ourselves competing on the same user base necessarily. In the short term, yeah, everybody are kind of swimming in the same pool. Longer term, we plan to bring more people from the outside. And those people, even the people that create those communities and use those tools, the tools are pretty universal: holding dollars, sending dollars, doing savings with dollars, swapping dollars for euros. It's not something DeFi people want. It's pretty much universal for any human being on the world to interact on their phones with cash. So we see ourselves as competing with Visa, with Stripe, with PayPal, with physical cash, and not necessarily with other DEXs. So the DEX we built is not competing with Uniswap. It's using Uniswap. It's complementing Uniswap for a new use case that you don't really see on mainnet right now. On mainnet, we see a lot of experimentation and different lending products and that could be used as liquidity on the back end. So this is the objective of our DEX to be for the liquidity providers, while the consumers will not know anything about what's happening there.
Okay, awesome.
Just like they don't know how X work or how Visa works.
I think there was a question earlier from Maor was kind of asking how the community currencies get involved, and how do you then it kind of led to other questions also about the fiat onboard ramps. And I think, when we're talking or people are learning about different products, they're actually different tools within our ecosystem. So it's not necessarily about the DEX beating the other DEXs, but more about how that DEX integrates with the other products and why that's valuable to the people in our community who are building payment or loyalty or other real world applications. So again, Maur mentioned earlier, how do the community currencies interact? It's not about getting $1 billion of liquidity on FuseSwap, but that community currency within the studio can click a button, add liquidity, launch an asset, give it out, try it out with the community, have a real use case, and it takes a few minutes. So I guess we compete by being different and by focusing on what we're using the tools for, and not each product being its own silo or its own product in itself.
An interesting question from Peter. I actually spoke about it right before the call today. So Peter is asking, are you planning to add escrow service to fuse.cash app that will help support peer-to-peer trading? So peer-to-peer trading is something that people are doing on Fuse, and especially since Fuse is really focusing on social payments and being able to send money without any friction and circulating money within communities, we wanted to address a big problem that the financial system has, that you have a lot of intermediaries that take like 30% on peer-to-peer trading. For instance, Uber or Deliveroo or DoorDash, all of them taking 30%, even Airbnb, for basically maintaining the ledger, clearing the transaction, managing, reputation, stuff like that. Stuff that can really be using a blockchain. And one of the things that we're exploring is how do we create a escrow service through a contract. So let's say that I order food and a delivery person comes to me and gives me this food, and we both agree that the delivery was excellent and the food is great. There's no reason a third party would take 30% out of this transaction. We can lower it, or we can create an arbitration service that will be almost free unless you are in a dispute, and then disputes are into effect. If Visa is only expensive or PayPal is only expensive because of the 3% or the 1%, they're because you can always cancel a transaction. In crypto, it's impossible, but you could build those abstractions on top of crypto, and it doesn't need to be 30%. So to your question, Peter, people are thinking about it, working on it. It's a big task it's a big effort to tackle, and it's another thing that will be probably on Fuse before it will be on Ethereum. So yeah, we're planning on this, and we have some interesting updates about it in the next few weeks, actually, with some of our partners.
Just a fun question that isn't a live one. One that we got before was about NFTs. Can we create them on Fuse Network?
So NFTs, I think it's something in the pipeline. We also want to add NFT support for the FuseCash wallet. I think NFTs are kind of overhyped. I talked about it in the last meeting. It's really useful right now, as far as I'm concerned, in yield farming. So what Uniswap is doing with replacing the LP token for an LP NFT, and all the protocols that allow you to create lending marketplaces or secondary marketplaces or fractional ownership of NFTs. All of those things are probably not, I wouldn't exaggerate their importance. They're probably more interesting than doing art on the blockchain. So yeah, that's NFT in a nutshell. Again, there's like endless possibilities. We're not planning to build everything, but we see people are building those stuff on top of Fuse, and we hear more and more ideas and plans. So I definitely believe that NFTs are going to be supported by the end of the year fully.
Just quick side note, we seem to be getting a lot of questions about like bank transfers and kind of fiat onboarding and offboarding. I think we had a question earlier about Vietnam. And Peter's also asking about kind of access in African countries. Maor is now asking about cashing out. So I think on our studio, you can see there's a Transact Ramp MoonPay. We're also in touch with companies like Simplex, and we're always looking for new partners. So if you're in a region where you feel that the fiat onboarding or offboarding or the infrastructure opportunities that people are being offered aren't up to par and you'd like to see those improved, definitely get in touch with me or other people on the team, and we can work with local operators in order to help make that process as smooth or accessible as possible. Unfortunately, there's a lot of countries and regulation and banking infrastructures and protocols. So Fuse doesn't do that integration. We work with partners, but in most places there is a partner, and they're often looking for people who can add, again, the mobile infrastructure that we talked about earlier. So definitely be in touch with us if you feel like there is a partner or service that you'd like to see added, because we're often looking to help make those new things available.
Yeah, just I will say that all the fiat ramps are going to get much, much better. Like since the beginning of the year, they raised crazy amounts of money and experienced crazy amounts of volumes. And it's just going to be like more plugins, more integrations, more options. All of them are adding withdrawal feature options. There's also several fiat ramps that are doing crypto to gift cards or Amazon gift cards, stuff like that. We're looking into that as well. Like, it's a really nice ecosystem, and we can tell from our perspective that it's really, really improving. Better coverage, better fees, better options and UI and usability and speed. So definitely we see ourselves lucky to be in this time, because we already can see how this can be competitive relative to Visa and Stripe and Square and all those companies.
I think important question here, which I think we should definitely tackle, which is around bridge fees. So, I mean, it's a general, it's a problem across the an issue, at least across the whole blockchain space. But what's your vision on that, Mark, in the bridge fees on Ethereum in particular, and how you see that playing out in the long term?
Yeah, it's exactly like crypto deposit fees. They were 10% if you were depositing with your credit card, and then competition started. So I think we'll see. First of all, we'll see consolidation of liquidity across different chains, and the main chains will probably be able to have like several bridges competing on fees. I don't see cross blockchain transactions being very expensive. I see a lot of people moving between chains, and I see a lot of value to be made there. Like, there's a lot of money to be made from moving between chains. I also think that second layer solution, Optimism, for instance, it will have a similar experience. So all the zero knowledge proof rollups will also be kind of like bridgeable from Fuse to those protocols. All of this leads me to the conclusion that it would be almost no effort. There would be no moats around blockchains. You would be able to move around without a lot of friction. It would be, I believe, much easier than moving between centralized exchanges. It would probably be a lot less friction, less KYC, less fees.
Awesome.
We're not there yet. It's still under development. This entire, I think, until a few, like 6 months, using a bridge was a novelty. But now it's like kind of like important, but nobody really used it before. More questions?
What have we got here? If anyone wants to ask any more questions in the group, then please feel free to go ahead. I'll just check if we've got any other questions.
I think there's one question from Jan about like automating rewards to people. So
it does. Yeah, this is exactly what the studio does. Like, as I mentioned before, you're automating airdrops. Instead of building it yourself, there's an API, and there's even a wallet. You can even configure a coin and how much new users will get when they create onboard to that wallet or to that community. And you can customize it with using the API, build any extension you want. This is actually pretty complicated, not super impossible, but we wanted to make it super easy and accessible to anyone without being a developer. So yeah, that's exactly what we built. And the Pi wallet, I heard about it. I have no idea what it is.
We're getting questions which are more difficult to answer, which are around big partnerships that we have planned in the coming in the coming weeks and months, and also the question that we seem to get every hour of every day concerning centralized exchanges, and when we might be listing on centralized exchanges. I know already that we can't answer that question. It's always under NDA. You don't talk about this stuff. Essentially, it's just the way it is. But rest assured that it's not something we're ignoring. Let's say. By any stretch, and then the same thing goes for partnerships to some extent. There are what I can say is that we do have some big plans when it comes to liquidity or yield farming partnerships, both on Fuse Swap, on Fuse Network in general, on Binance Smart Chain, and also on Ethereum. So we're going to see some big things happening there. A lot more bigger yield farmers coming over to the platform. And then just generally to give you an indication of what we can expect, May, towards the end of May, going into June. Obviously, we've got the website going live next week. Lending is going to be big, just because of some of the things that people can do there. Some of the more creative things that people can do with liquidity, thanks to the lending platform, which is coming. And then obviously fuse.cash is going to be a big driver. fuse.cash is a big focus for us. Driving user growth on there, user acquisition, but also using that as a platform to drive liquidity to the network. And then just more generally, more interoperability. We might see other chains. We got Binance Smart Chain, we got Ethereum. We might see we might see some other big chains integrated into Fuse Network in the coming months.
Yeah, I also want to add that June is a big month for all those partnerships and efforts to bear fruit, and our policy is not to talk about stuff until they're like final and ready to go live. We have like fingers that are already want to share this news, but the plan in June is to have a lot of announcements, just like Robert said. One of them is actually something we're working on for a few years, and we're working on PR and exclusivity, and this is why no screenshots, no names, not sharing anything. Somebody wrote about it in a blog a few weeks ago, and we asked them to take it off. But I can say that this is about real world adoption. So I was thinking like, what can I share? But other than that, also a lot of legal aspects and working with lawyers to get a lot of stuff behind the scenes ready to be able to debut on exchanges. This is something we're working on hard. So June is a big month also, not because of that. We have yield farming. We're about to release how much total, the plan over the next 3 months? 3 million Fuse, something like that. Don't take my word for it, but the idea is to really double down on yield farming on Fuse Swap, which is something that will come hand in hand with the Fuse Cash growth. We need users to come to Fuse Cash, and we need the liquidity so they can access it.
So yeah, to be transparent on that, to bring liquidity to the platform, it's mega competitive because there's some crazy yield out there. Liquidity miners are looking for big yield, so you need to be very clear cut in trying to attract these people. So there's going to be some big rewards going out there and big efforts to go out there and bring these liquidity miners to Fuse Network. And then some big partnerships in that area as well. And obviously, our focus remains building payment-centric communities, building things like Fuse Cash. The liquidity helps us to be the platform that it makes everything easier, essentially. The more liquidity you've got on the platform, the more credible you are, and the more easier it is for, let's say, a $10 million, a $50 million, $100 billion payment implementation to come over to Fuse Network in the future. So that's very much in our radar. It's what we're focused on.
So one last thing before moving to questions, if there's any other questions, is that there's going to be a lot more effort on DeFi moving forward in the next few months. And the objective is to create a separation. So expect a separation between the efforts we're doing on the network level and between the DeFi stuff that we're doing, which are definitely different audiences and definitely focused on different stuff. And moving forward, expect big announcements on that front as well. So there's a lot of updates about what we did, but also there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. And they're going to be the reason we're rolling out like the big June airdrops. And there's a lot of news coming.
Awesome.
Cool. So that's an hour. Anybody has final questions? So Jan is asking, when I provide liquidity to Fuse and Fuse dollar and Fuse, I want to get it back. Do I have to pay the current Fuse price, thereby losing money when the price? No. So you don't need to pay if you want it back, unless you want to convert Fuse dollar to Fuse. Yeah. So that's also.
I think the question might be about impermanent loss. I might be wrong. I'm not sure.
Yeah, impermanent loss is a problem. Converting currencies when the market goes down is a problem. You lose money. If you just want to withdraw, it's not incurring any losses. The losses are coming from trading.
Yeah,
from the market dropping, basically.
Yeah, the answer to that question, Jan, is look into impermanent loss. I think that's your question. Look into it. It's obviously with the arrival of automated market making DEXs, impermanent loss is a big thing. Is an interesting subject. So I suggest you check it out, research it.
Awesome. Nice. Any other questions? I think we're through everything.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. We always appreciate feedback. So in the group, personally, myself, Mark, Isaac, any of the team members, please ping us.